step forward.
Everyone, we have a dope episode today. We brought in the most diabolical, disturbing Negroes possible. The guys from Tappin' No Cappin'. We appreciate you guys for coming on. Also with me, we're down one co-host, but I have with me Professor E, King of the Comics, Ethan Murphy. How are you doing, my brother?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good because we are here for a very special show today, guys. We're doing hot takes. We're going to get toxic today. Not really, I'm playing. But we're going to be controversial probably to an extent. This is a show where we can kind of have fun. We have a expertise in having conversation and discourse, so I wanted to kind of build a whole type of episode around that. That being said, let's waste no further time and get into this. For the hot take, we're going to start with the guest first, give you guys the opportunity to go first. And because my man said he has a million of them, we'll go ahead and let him get his first one off. Let's go to Con Man. What's your first hot take?
Man, you know, it's your boy the Con Man, KHAM_man.510. That's the Bay. You know, catch me on Universal Base. Catch me on What It Sound Like podcast. We get your best reviews and interviews. And catch me on Tappin' No Cappin'. If you're a nerd and you've seen it, then what's your opinion? Now, I have a lot. I have a lot of controversial opinions. Always have. That's literally why the name Con Man came to be. So I'm gonna start off with something light, since I know we missing a guest, so you can come back to me for more. But I'm gonna start off by saying Donatello is the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, and I'm here to defend. I have the receipts, and I have lots of a lot of counters. So whoever want to try to challenge that, I'm definitely here for it.
All right, so first things first. Why do you believe he is the best? You said he's the best Ninja Turtle. You said the best.
Best.
And I'm guessing that means he's the best fighter. You think he's the best character, best character design, all around best.
No, overall best, right? Okay. He may not be, when we talk about stats, right? It's kind of like we talk about boxing.
Right.
He may not be the strongest fighter. He may not be the one with the most dexterity. But if we're talking about overall character, as far as one of the members of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, he is the overall best.
Okay.
So go ahead. My bad.
No, go ahead. No, I got the ball rolling. So you go ahead.
What makes him the best though? That you ain't answering the question.
Because I just wanted to make sure before I go into my bag, you know what I mean, give my arsenal away.
How does a house turtle
give me some counters first?
You said a house turtle?
I don't want to use the N word. How did a house turtle outdo a field turtle? Like, you have two turtles for sure that's outside way more than him put together. You feel me? Just individually put together, whatever the case may be. Then you got my boy Mikey, who is the last Ronin. You know, he stands tall after everything. You feel me? So how is Donnie over Leo? And I don't even like Leo and Ralph. Like, Mike, debatable. We can get into that. But Leo and Ralph, how is he above these two guys who have multiple times put their life on the line for the crew?
Right.
How many times had Donnie put his life on the line in the field?
Okay.
I want to say this real quick before we let you go. I would understand if you were to say Mikey or Rav, because I could fight that. I think Leo's the best turtle. Call me stereotypical, but he's had the most responsibility from Splinter. But he's been sent off to become a better leader multiple occasions through the movies, animated stuff, and in the comics. He's been a leader. I'd argue he's also the best fighter of the group. So we got the leadership, fighting. The thing I would give Donnie is the intelligence factor and him being a strategist. But even then, to an extent, I think Leo does a lot of more the strategic work when it comes to them fighting Shredder or fighting in the field versus Donnie doing more of the tech stuff. Leo, I can see. Donnie gets, I feel like he gets neglected by the writers. Like, everyone I've ever seen in any other Ninja Turtle show, movie, whatever else, they kind of like, Donnie's kind of, he's here.
You're giving him ammunition, man. You're giving him ammunition.
Well, that's the reason why he's not the best. That's the reason why he's not the best. If you say he's the most underrated, I get that. But
wait, hold on a second. Charlie, is your mic, you near your mic? Your mic's a little weird.
Oh, my shit's off the side. Go ahead.
There we go. You got your bit. Okay.
You know, Donnie is technically the guy in the chair who just happens to have combat skills. He's not meant to be outside, but he does go outside when he moves.
Okay.
He's the guy in the chair.
Yeah, he's the Genki for yeah.
Go ahead. I'm ready for it. I gotta get this.
All right.
I mean, how you looking?
Your glasses off like this is about to This better be good.
So first and foremost, you start off by saying he's the guy in the chair. Most OP niggas are the guy in the chair. I'm talking about niggas like Batman. Batman is the guy in the chair who just so happens to be also a field nigga who fights outside, just the same way you said. Yes, nigga, Batman has always been the guy in the chair. We all know this. He literally is a nigga that will sit back, be at the computer desk.
Batman has no choice. He's a solo hero versus a team.
Let me get it off. Let me get it off. Let me get it off.
Let me talk. Let me cook.
Let him get up. Let him get up. Let him get up.
Say his same little crew with the Robins and all them shit. He be one telling them, "Hey, go do this." Hey, even if he's not at the computer, he be in his car. Hey, do this. Hey, do that. He is the communicator. So he is the guy in the chair who just so happens to be a fighter, just like we're talking about Donatello. Now, Donna. Let's talk about my nigga Donnie. Now, you brought up my nigga Mikey, who was in the last Ronin. Mikey was the last Ronin because every other nigga went to find the fucking smoke, nigga. Mikey was left out because he was the fucking favorite. He was the baby out the group. His older brothers put it on the fucking line for that nigga so he could be the last one. It wasn't because he was the best. It's because all the rest of them niggas was outside pushing that fucking line. Donnie was the last brother to die with Master Splinter, nigga. The right-hand nigga of the master, nigga. Then we're talking about, if you remember, they gave each character a weapon based off of their skill set. Now, if anybody knows anything about the bow staff, nigga, it's one of the hardest fucking weapons to master and the least lethal. So Donnie is the nigga that has the least lethal weapon, and yet still at the same time is surviving and being niggas' asses on the same level as everybody else. Past all that, like he said, he's underrated. Every other character in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is we're talking about all the brothers, have had their alterations, which is Ralph going Shredder, talking about Mikey being Ronin, Leo, you feel me, always being the OP character that he is as far as being the leader or who might change up and do whatever. Donnie is the only nigga who has never had an alteration because he's OP. If he was to ever go rogue, if Donnie was to ever say fuck it, he would be the nigga to destroy all the fucking Teenage Mutant Turtles, because not only is his skill set hella high, but because his intelligence is way past him. He's the only support character that keeps these niggas alive, whether they're outer space or he creates their weapons or he creates their vehicle. Donnie, if he wanted to use all those weapons against his brothers, it would be a no-brainer, nigga. The one time that he had a robot that mimicked all his fucking skills, beat one-shot all the Teenage Mutant Turtles, nigga. And that was his character. That was him when he was possessed when he possessed a robot, nigga. So it's like if he wanted to go OP and just use his intelligence, including him being a ninja, he would be the best. But they underwrite him because they understand how OP the nigga is. So yes. Also, last point, as far as Leo being a leader, if you really pay attention to the series, now mind you, I'm a real Teenage Mutant Turtle nigga, cuz I got movies and all that shit, nigga, the comics, all that stuff. So with that being said, if you ever paid attention to the dynamics of the brothers, when Leo is the nigga that's always fighting with Ralph and all that other shit, Donnie's the nigga that's the voice of reason. Donnie's the person that keeps the group together. Donnie's the person that says, hey, it's not that serious, y'all. Let's go do this and that. So even on a leader standpoint, Donnie's always been the nigga who's been the glue. So
if I may, all those are interesting points, and you can definitely be the glue of a team. You can be the voice of reason. You can be the dude that actually essentially build your own Ultron and actually turns out to be, OP as hell. But you got to remember, if you're speaking in hypotheticals, if you're saying that Donnie would be the best if he was written better, or Donnie would be the best if he actually had to step up and fight them, or he would be the best if A or B or C, then what you're also saying is that he's not the best currently. That the way he's presented now, he isn't the best. So if that's the case,
he's heating up.
If that's the case, if we're speaking only in hypotheticals, if we're speaking only in generalizations about theory, you can't base off of that. It's the same thing as saying, you know, if that guy, if Michael Jordan played against LeBron James, then of course Michael Jordan would beat him. That's hypothetical. We don't know for a fact. We can never know with absolute certainty. And I'm not saying that Michael Jordan is better or LeBron's better. I'm not saying that Donatello is better or Raph's better or what have you. What I'm saying is, based off of the actual facts we have, Leo has been presented as the leader. Based off the facts we actually have, Raph has led as well, and Raph has actually shown his prowess as a fighter. Based off the facts we have, Mikey has gone on by himself in Ronin to take on the foot and everything else. Based off of what we've seen with Donnie hasn't had to step up in these ways or shown himself in these ways. That's all I'm saying.
But he has, though. That's the thing about it. He has. He's fought Rocksteady and Bebop by himself and be able to hold his own. He's been able to best his brothers. Even Master Splitter has said that his skills, he's outsmarted his brothers when it comes to combat. And when we're talking about, I think his name is Usagi. He's the rabbit. Who's a samurai. When they put them in the show, and I think it's Ralph or Mikey, one of them niggas is fighting. No, it's Donatello and Usagi, and they're fighting off a whole clan by themselves. They're getting their ass beat, and it took Donatello to step in to start whooping ass, and he does it with ease. So some things don't need to be stated, some things are demonstrated. So it may not be the fact that it's stated or he gets the most screen time, but just because he doesn't get the screen time doesn't mean that it's not a fact. You just have to go based off of feats and not off of a statement. So I'm going off of his feats, and and if we're going to talk about unpopular opinions, then none of our opinions is going to be factuals, nigga, because it's all an opinion.
Well, that's right there may be hypothetical. Also, you don't know what we have cooked up for you. But one thing I will say, Craig, because I miss Craig and seen him in a minute. It's my boy. I actually like Donnie a lot. I really, really do. And in my oftentimes my group of friends, I'm either considered the Michelangelo because I always make stupid jokes, or the Donnie because I'm an old ass, corny ass nigga. But one thing you didn't bring up, my favorite point about Donatello is in the first film, Ninja Turtle film, he's actually my favorite character, voiced by Corey Feldman, because he actually is. He's kind of the voice of reason. He's also the most cool, laid-back dude. Always lying in the cut. He's always lying in the cut. He's actually very clever. He's playing games with Casey Jones when they're working on the truck. He's there to support Michelangelo as because he's the baby of the family. So I have a lot of respect for Donatello, and I am playing a little bit of devil's advocate. But I love Donatello. No one loves Donatello.
A lot of niggas don't. They don't give him the credit and the flowers that he deserves. Like even on Tapping No Capping, when I made a post and I said that Donnie's a better engineer than Rocket, everybody went crazy because Rocket from Guardians of the Galaxy. And when I said that, people was going crazy because they know Rocket to be the best engineer because he gets the most screen time. However, when you go into the history of Donnie and the inventions that he has made, then you can clearly see and what I said, to be specific, was that if you put them both in a junkyard and asked them to make something, right, Donnie would have the most impressive invention. Rocket would make something that is the most destructive. Donnie would do something that's actually helpful, something that can be something that is used in variables, like things in multiple ways. Versus Rocket is more so one dimensional. So
I think that's different. That's like asking architect to construct a vehicle. Like they're both intelligent. They both can construct things, but it's just like I'm not gonna like. I see your point. I see your point there, but I think you're setting. I think you're kind of loading the criteria one way. Like you're kind of leaning it towards Donnie's way with asking to do this thing that's beautiful versus if Rocket's gonna do something more destructive and he would do that better. You see how you kind of skewing it one way versus the other way.
I get that, but my point is that if you look at all the inventions that they have made, what Donnie does is more impressive because it's harder to do. Like the fact that Donnie created a portable teleporter, right, on his person, like no matter where I am, I can teleport. Yeah. Rocket can create something that can destroy somebody who's a planetary person. The difference is that Donnie can do both. Donnie can create a destructive weapon and create other creative inventions versus Rocket. He can do similar things, but most of his shit is based off of arsenal. So that's why I give him the edge. It's not that they're not both great.
Spaceships. The nigga builds spaceships.
And you take into account the fact
also built a fucking key to open up. These are not regular gates. These are galactic fucking code gates and shit in space. This nigga made like regular gates of his birth. Wasn't even that old. Not have been taught. Ain't even been taught nothing yet, and made a fucking key to break out. Like out of scraps. Like I made.
And you take into account the buddy was able to like work on gene splicing and like create other mutant people with consciousness and create life.
I mean, but he didn't
as
work
an infant.
on it, he didn't work on it.
I mean, if he figured out what the issue was with the just like, glance at it, I'd assume that he know how to do it.
But see, to me, because I look at Donnie as a mechanic more than, not Donnie, but I look at Rocket as more of a mechanic because when he's able to look at a machine and just know how it functions, he may not know how to create it. He may not know like all the science that goes into the variables, but he can look at a simple, this cord is connected to this cord, and I can see that the flow is fucked up. Because he's that good of a mechanic, he can see the flaw in somebody not being able to, in a machine. They understand the science and all that shit behind it, but he's better as a mechanic. So if you gave this nigga the blueprint on how to build something, he's gonna be able to do it better than anybody else. But if we was to put this nigga intelligence on let's compare science to science, I don't think he's gonna measure up to somebody like who was the nigga that created him, or what's his name? The high evolutionary. So we know that he's smarter, but the fact is that Rocket is a better mechanic.
The last thing I'll say on it, so we can get to the next hot take. I think to my point I just brought up earlier, as far as like the thing from Guardians 3 where he looked into creating mutants. Keep in mind, he pointed out how to do it with the machine, but he was looking at why their genetics and why the genomes were unstable. Like he was looking at that from a geneticist standpoint, not just the mechanical stuff that went around it. Like he was looking at the gene, like that takes biology, that takes chemistry, that takes genetics, all that, knowing how that works to stabilize your genomes and why you don't just turn into mush or turn into a mindless monster. And
I thought the fact is he just saw a flaw in the tool.
Without being taught anything, he was not.
He saw a flaw in the machine, but he was showing how that machine, how it affected their genes and their genetics and why they didn't operate the same way. So yeah, it was part of the machine, but he has to know how that affects the human, well, not just the human body, but an organic body.
Okay. But I mean, not to get too off topic here.
Right.
That's what you're saying, though. But one thing I did want to bring up real quick, I know we gotta have Straw Hat go with it as well as you too, Charlie. But this is all cool. I really do appreciate this. But this again does go back to what Donnie's strong suit is. As the song says in the original '80s cartoon, Donatello does machines. Yeah, we know he does machines. Yeah, we know he's a brain. We know he's a savant. But as far as being the best turtle overall, is he the best leader? I mean, you mentioned that he could handle himself in the field if need be to come in and back people up. And okay, maybe he could do that. But being a leader requires other skills. So we're kind of like, as Straw Hat said at the beginning, what metric are you using to determine that he's the best turtle? Is it the fact that he could potentially defeat all of them with his mind alone?
It's the fact that, okay, so it's like this. Like we all say, you kind of touched on it earlier. You said that Mikey's kind of like the goofball. He's a kid of the family. You said that Ralph, he is the anger, the rage person. You feel me? He's that character. And then Leo's the leader, right? But all these niggas only wear one hat. Donnie wears all of them, is the point. So that's why I'm saying that he's the better overall, because even if he's not, I'm pushing you into this position, even though in the comics, I'm a comic reader, he has been put in the leader position. He has been because niggas really read Teenage Mutant Turtles, Leo has left. Ralph has left. Yeah, so all these niggas have left the group. And Donnie was the nigga that was holding it down. So I'm not speaking from just an opinion. He has been in the leadership role. However, I'm saying the point is that out of all these niggas who do these great things,
level of leadership, though. Let me pause you for look at the level of leadership though, compared to what Donnie led, compared to what Ralph and Leo led, being a whole coalition versus okay, it's me and Mikey, versus okay, I'm gonna lead Leo, Ralphie, and Mikey. He ain't done that.
I get that, but then we can also compare and say that Leo's actually the worst leader because he's the person who causes the most controversy as a fucking leader. He breaks up the group.
Every leader's MO though, when they're trying to find that.
My point is that he breaks the group up more based off of his ego versus Donnie doesn't have that same issue. Donnie doesn't push his ego or his perspective over the group. Donnie's just a supporter. Every time a character wants to do something, even like he just said, when it came to Mike, Mike, he is the big brother. He's the number one go-to. I'm gonna talk to Mikey because he's that good of a leader, nigga. I'm gonna take the biggest headache, the biggest problem of the group, and I'm gonna be his go-to person because I understand that he's the biggest issue. So every point of perspective that we want to talk about, Donnie has done that shit. And as we know, also, like, yes, he may not be the nigga with the sword and the size and shit like that, but as we all know, they can all use each other's weapons. They just have a particular weapon that complements their personality.
Fair enough.
Oh, let's also say when we talk about masters, nigga, all the masters use sticks. Splinter, nigga, and what's his name? From Panda, from Kung Fu Panda. All these
Oogway.
Oh yeah.
Oogway and fucking
Shifu.
Yeah, Shifu and what's the panda's name? He uses a stick too, nigga. So all them niggas use sticks.
They've also
the best is usually geared towards the nigga who's gonna use a stick. I'm just keeping it a
the old wise dude, old wise dudes. Even Stick, the guy named Stick who against the Daredevil,
yeah. Fair enough.
No.
All right, Straw Hat, what you got for us?
Oh, I really don't have nothing off the top of my head that's just like unpopular. Like,
I mean, that's not unpopular. That's not be unpopular, but just something that you might think, might ruffle a feather or two.
I don't know. Y'all might have to come back to me. I don't know.
I got more, bro. I got more. Like I said, I got a list.
You want to go next, Charlie, or want me to go next?
Yeah, I'll go next. I mean, I got this one specifically because these two guys are here and what these guys do. I believe in regards to versus battles, that has done more harm to the nerd community than anything else. I feel like versus battles have been the most divisive thing that has made this whole thing of like whole fan bases turn on each other because of this character, maybe this character. I feel like DBZ versus DC stuff happens all the time because of the Goku versus Superman debate. You see it a lot when it comes to Gear 5 versus Goku, all because one popular character or the strongest character from one show is well known or widely known to beat the other one or vice versa. That creates this like discourse between these groups, and now everything is a thing. And I say that because most recently with the whole Gear 5 thing with Luffy dropping, everybody's like taking shots at either Gear 5 being kind of mid or people talking about DBZ overrating the Super Saiyan transformation because for whatever reason I've heard people say Gear 5 is a new Super Saiyan transformation. It's just that
Luffy has the white hair? Is that Gear 5?
Yeah. I'm way behind in One Piece. I'm only like 300 episodes in, so I don't even know how that comes to be. But from what I've seen, there's a lot of discourse over something as simple as a transformation, all because somebody says this character's stronger, this verse is going to murk everybody in this verse or vice versa. And I feel like it keeps the nerd community hella divided. And even back in the day with power scaling videos with like Seth the Programmer, like it was, if you look in those comment sections of his videos before he got canceled, it's nothing but toxicity all in there. Or like the death battles with the actual channel death battle guys that do that shit. All their comments is nothing but toxicity in those chats. I feel like it brings out the worst of the nerd population, always turns people against each other in general.
I see what you're. I mean, I'm sorry, you got to say something quick. You go first.
No. You go first, my brother, and then I'll chime in.
I'll keep it short and sweet. I see where you're coming from, Charlie, and I feel like what it does is it just brings those things to the surface, that toxicity to the surface. The toxicity was always there, but I feel like on some level it does create conversation amongst the communities, and it keeps those fandoms thriving. Think about it in sports. We've always had this debate of sports. Sports themselves are a competition. Without the competition, who cares? Wrestling, we all know wrestling here too. Wrestling's all about heat. For those who don't understand how heat works, it's about building a storyline as to why you would care about one character beating the other. So it's to say that having versus battles has done more harm than good, quoting you, sir. I don't think so. Has it done harm? Absolutely. But has it done good as well? Of course. I mean, I've talked to people who don't even know who Goku was, that when they saw Goku versus they're not hardcore fans or anything, but they didn't know who Goku was when they saw that the idea of someone challenging Superman, and then what they broke it down to in Rooster Teeth, what they said was Superman is Goku is a character who continually pushes his limits, and Superman is a man with a character without any, and it actually is a really interesting comparison with those two. So I think it actually did spark more interest in these fandoms and kind of kept them thriving in a way that wouldn't have happened otherwise. That's my opinion. Sorry.
I'll say my response till after Craig goes. My bad.
Did that sound bored?
Oh,
everything
Yeah,
is
go ahead.
proceeding as I have foreseen.
No, I'll say that based off of him cooking like that. And then you just cooking just now, but no, I think that like I said, I'm gonna chime in. I'm just gonna add on to what you just said. Personally, y'all niggas know me. All my shit was based all of my popularity in the nerd groups are based off of verses. All my conversations are based off of verses. So for me, it's only been positive, but also because every fucking anime that we watch is a versus. If you really, I mean, just on a surface level, rather that be a men versus women, rather that be this character versus this character. If we go even to the origins, like just way back when we used to watch Beyblade, this is versus. It's all versus talk. Exactly. You feel me?
Let it rip.
So it's like all of this has always been a versus or a competitive nature of community. You know what I'm saying? I think the only time that it gets toxic is when you bring toxic people to the table. I think toxicity is within the culture in general, but having a versus conversation does not make it toxic. It's the fact that people have such a biasness that they can accept an alternate opinion. Like you said, when you have stands or people that represent Goku or people who represent Superman, it's like I love this character so much. I put this character on so much of a pedestal that I make it personal for you to attack this person. So that's more of the individual than it is on the community for us making a versus conversation. Because for me, I mean, way back in the day when we talking about reading comics and reading, just being an anime fan, you got to know your shit. And every time that you come into these conversations, even if it's not about who versus who, it's I'm going to challenge my knowledge versus your knowledge. So no matter what, it has always been a versus conversation. No matter what, if you're a nerd and you're saying this is something that I believe in, that I'm a fan of, you are going to have to defend something at some point.
You got a point, Jew, before I retaliate?
I was gonna say I like verses to an extent as well, because I think it brings out the knowledge of, say, characters that are being mentioned at the time, and also it'll expose the motherfuckers who's trolling. And if they fucking do their due diligence, it also pushes them back to, okay, let me go back and re-study this character because I didn't know they was this dope, or I didn't know they was actually this weak, or I've been looking at them on a fandom basis instead of a realistic basis. Like, okay, this person may not be that OP. You feel me? Like I was gonna say, side characters, like versus also brings enlightenment to the side characters who are sometimes better than the fucking main character, but they don't get that light, that written, emphasis like they should. And I like versus. Now the toxicity and the over trolling, it definitely is too much, but I think that comes with anything. You feel me? Like Khan was saying, we're built on gladiator days, so like me versus you, them versus them is always going to be a thing. You're going to always have somebody trying to defend one side and somebody trying to defend the other. So it's like you can't go get away from that.
Right. So what I will say, I don't think it's inherently bad in itself. Like in concept, in a versus debate should be something that's holistically positive and all that stuff going forward. Now, looking at it at its core, kind of like what you guys said in regards to human nature as far as wanting to compete. I'm an avid sports fan as far when it comes to basketball. And the worst thing I will say when it comes to the NBA debates is that people have these things about what team was better, what player was better in their prime, but they lack the nuance as regards to why that is. It becomes a whole thing of, I'm going to regurgitate these points that I've heard a couple times. And then if it gets dismantled, I'm going to resort to talking out my ass at that point. There's no kind of nuanced thought. There's no admitting when, this could be a thing. In theory, it should be great, but what it turns into, again, something like tapping, I think is done well because you guys don't allow for talk without evidence to be presented. But in most spaces, it's really just them getting off points without really backing things up. And one of the worst things, I've talked about it before in the show, one of the worst things I hate when it comes to debates, especially with comic book characters, is that in order to sway thing one way, they will do this thing called composite. You guys know what it is. I hate it with a passion.
Oh.
You pick every possible version of this person and put it into one individual. So whatever rebuttal you have is for why they would be stronger. I'm going to pull out this random thing from this one side book that doesn't relate to this character because this one random thing that got this power was something very specific in how that happened. So you don't pick a specific character, like with Superman versus Goku. They never pick a specific version of Superman. They pick every version that ever existed with every feat he's ever done, even though they were very specific moments that he had, like he was supercharged by a sun or something wild shit, and now he can pull planets away.
Because there's only one Goku. Toriyama only, I mean, technically GT, but that doesn't count. There's only one Goku, so it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, literally, for those who don't know, there was a time when Superman picked up the book of everything. It's like, how is that? One, how is there a book of everything? Two, how can you pick it up with your hand? Whatever.
Book of Infinity.
Book of Infinity. Yeah.
You pull the planet and shit. Like, I'm like, things like that. I'm like, all right, cool. If you pick that version of Superman and say that's the strongest version and he's beating everybody, cool. But you won't do stuff like that because if I find one hole in that specific version of Superman, then you can't defend it anymore. If I find one flaw, then what she can lose, now your whole argument is pointed, and now they just
and for me, bro, and like this is like what Juice said, right? I take people who do that as a forfeit. You just forfeit it, bro, because when I say I had this opinion and I had to defend this on Universal Debates, but the person didn't show up, right? But he was trolling in the comments, and he was like, "Oh, Superman could be Homelander and he can be Omni-Man all at the same time." And I said, I don't think that's true. And so he was just like, oh, if you don't think that's true, we can debate it. So I was like, okay, let's debate it. Then he tried to move the goalpost and said, well, Superman Prime. And I said, well, see, that means then just say you don't really believe that Superman could beat them both. Because if you got to go to the highest level, the highest version of a character that is not his base form, If you can't go base Superman and then base these characters, you gotta pick the super alternate version. Well, then that means that you don't truly believe in your opinion. You feel what I'm saying? So we feel that way all the time, my nigga. Like anytime you gotta go, oh, well, this one time where he had a super suit, or this time where he got a amplifier. You don't really know what you said.
Super suit.
So the question I have then, as far as that goes, how often do you see that happen, what you just described, versus the nuanced conversations which you guys have on your show? So like not that you interact with, but something that you just
our show is based off what you're stating right now. So your opinion right now is basically what our show is based off of, because we got tired of seeing trolls, and me and Khan, we argue with people a lot in the comments and get blocked for days and months because we call people out on their bullshit and be like, drop the scan. And me and him, we're good for dropping a scan. I'm going to flood your whole DMs or this whole little post with scans. Say something. And then be quiet after that. And then that's how we developed our shows. Like, okay, we're going to make a show that highlights what goes on in these comments on social media when people create these versus posts or these what if posts or these, let's talk about it, because some of y'all in here bullshitting. So we gonna talk about it, and we gonna bring.
And my thing is, bro, is one thing I noticed about trolls, the habit that they have based off of kind of what you were saying, Charlie, was that not only are they, I'm going to revert to some toxicity and just start, I'm about to meme your ass to death, you know what I mean, and shit like that, is they're very scared to have an opinion on live. Like, you know what I mean? I'm an on live nigga. CBO Cam, nigga. All that, I beat you in a conversation that you just wrote hella comments and I just got tired of replying to your ass. I don't got Twitter fingers. I'm not finna be typing to your ass all day. If you want to have a valid argument and we can have 3 unbiased judges and they can say who won, not just your opinion versus my opinion. We have 3 people that say, hey, this person sounds like they know more what they're talking about than you do. Then at that point, nigga, your opinion doesn't matter because factually I won. It's not a he say, she say shit. And that's what I don't like, bro. If you gonna sit here and say you are smarter than me or your opinion is more valid than mine, then let's actually set up a whole situation to let that happen. Because I'm a hood nigga, so even though I'm a nerd, I'm a hood nigga. Don't say you gonna beat my ass, but you ain't ready to see me in the streets, nigga. Like, what's happening? You feel me? Either you gonna actually come outside, or nigga, all that little writing shit and saying I'm scared don't really matter unless you actually coming outside. You know what I'm saying? So
All right.
So one thing I was going to say real quick, is just that I love that y'all actually basically y'all are lawyers. Like that's what lawyers have to do. They have to have all their evidence compiled first and foremost.
Basically,
and I like one thing
shout out to Matt Moore though.
The thing that what y'all do as well is pretty much we're taking this specific version of this specific character with this specific version of this character. The end. There cannot be, because Superman shouldn't be used properly really in debates because he's been around since 39 or something. He's been on Twitter forever.
But I just said 3 times, bro.
Superman is probably getting pimped out by DC. They've been pimping him and Batman out for years.
Yeah, they're deliberately making them more and more broken. Even Batman, as far as making him so smart and so with all his ingenuity, it's like that's no longer realistic either. So it's almost I love
y'all right into one man's life. Right, Batman.
Yes. So that's why I like. I'm not sure if y'all said no. Dev has. I'm not sure about you, Straw Hat, and Craig.
To chime in on what you just said, bro, I'll make two quick points. One, composite only works if they're street tier level characters. Now it depends on we're not talking about amplified character like Cheshire, right? Cheshire is a perfect person who can be used as composite because she doesn't really have an amplified version of herself. Her origin stays the same. Her skill set stays the same. The only thing that changed is that later on in the comics when she got rebooted was that she had she could teleport. That's about it. But besides that, she has no other super ability. You know what I mean? I'm still using poison. I'm still using combat. I'm still using my skills versus your skills. So you can have a composite debate as long as it's not a character like Superman who just has so many different versions and so many different power levels. If power level comes into play where your power level is different, then composite doesn't work. But if you're using a character that their strength level and all that other shit stays the same, then that composite conversation can be handled. Now, the other point I was going to say, besides having a composite conversation, was I made a conversation about Superman where, people was like, oh, Thor's whooping whoever. Thor is this OP. He can whoop, at this point, he can whoop Superman. I just made a point. It's kind of like a shot to Thor and a shot to Superman, but I was like, I'm not even sure if Thor could beat Hercules from the DC comics. And I showed a scan where Hercules knocked out Superman and sent him outer space, and he was fighting Wonder Woman all at the same time. And so people was upset about that because people who read comics was like, oh, well, after the fact, he came back and he killed him. No, what happened is that he whooped Wonder Woman's ass, he whooped Superman's ass, then he had to run the fade with Shazam. Shazam finally whooped him, and then he conceded and said, you know what, bro? I'm done. Go ahead, finish me off. And Shazam was like, nah, bro, I'm not gonna kill you. And then Superman woke up outer space, nigga, after being knocked out for hella long, soaking up the sun like he always do, flew down while Hercules was on his knees and then gave him the final blow. That is not defeating somebody. That's snaking somebody. You feel me? So I'm not gonna sit here and give you that dub and say that, it takes away from the fact that Hercules knocked him out. The fact is that he took on two of the most OP characters and knocked them both the fuck off. It still has some to fight Shazam. You feel me? So it's like, I'm not sure if even Thor is doing some shit like that. You feel me? So,
no, yeah, but I like, but that's awesome. I didn't know that. That's deep cut stuff there. But I love it. What I love though is the idea that, like you said too, is about the idea of removing ego from the equation. This is about actually having tangible evidence, tangible facts. If you actually can cite this stuff, like you said, scans, it's like, okay, there is no, it's not about debate, it's about actually, here's the evidence. Here you go. Take it for what you want. It's been shown, it's been tested before by the writers, by the creators, at the HQs of Marvel or DC or Image or wherever it might be. So if you're able to have not educated, but if you're able to have an insightful and mature conversation about these things, I think you can have a very productive debate and conversation, Charlie. As Craig mentioned before, and as obviously Drew has referenced, the problem arises from having people who are irrational, that get into these conversations, that didn't take the time to do any legwork, and they have their favorites. They want their favorites to win without having any kind of backup evidence for it. It's evidence to back it up, and that's the problem. And that's the same thing in sports too. People are just loudmouths and being irrational and getting drunk and stuff. Right. It's the same thing. So I don't blame, like Rooster Teeth to this, Death Battle or whatnot, or even Captain and Cap. I don't blame people for wanting to have conversations about these characters on characters fights. I blame the people who don't know how to have conversations maturely. Does that make sense?
I agree.
Makes sense. All right, moving into Professor E. What you got for us?
All right, I'll keep it short and quick because Charlie and I have talked this thousands of one times. I know Craig knows about this too. Straw Hat, welcome to it. I just think, based primarily off of the cartoon animated series and representations of Jon Stewart.
Oh my God!
I think he's a boring, not a bad, but a boring Green Lantern. The reason I'm saying this is because Jon Stewart.
He said Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart.
I know, nigga.
The black.
Yes.
I think it's a boring Green Lantern. Not a bad one. It's a boring one. Because what he does, and I actually went back and watched. I was going to show Charlie my evidence about all the time I counted it in Justice League. In the first 3 seasons of Justice League, all he creates, he constantly makes that green stream to catch something. Doesn't make it into a glove or a hand or anything like that. It's a green stream to catch something, or he forms a bubble around himself as a shield, or it's a basic like line laser. Doesn't form any actual light constructs of any actual creativity. Then, of course, people always say, well, he's a soldier. He makes weapons, makes guns. Sure, he does. How much creativity does it take to make a gun? Something you've seen 1,001 times over and over again. That's not creative. That's just creating what you've actually seen before. I can do that. What I'm saying is I want him to create things that are beyond what's already there in front of him. Be creative. Do something different. There is an episode in Justice League Unlimited where it's called Child's Play, where he's a kid. And he creates big, giant robots and all kinds of fun things. He's actually made serpents, all kinds of this and that. And it's awesome. I love seeing that kind of Jon Stewart. He's a fun character then. He's creative and different. But the grown-up, mature Marine soldier, Jon Stewart, is consistently presented as a boring character in the animated versions by Bruce Timm in them.
Calm, before you say anything, he's just talking about the version from the show, from the animated series.
Yeah, I just
he's not talking about the comics. Yeah, because I was about to y'all were foaming at the mouth.
Because I haven't read a lot of Jon Stewart in the comics. I have not. But I've said before in the cartoon
you know
series,
how I feel about John, bro. You know.
I know everyone loves him. And I'm not saying he's a bad character. He's boring.
I give you that on animated, but because even in his movie, I liked it. The little movie that came out like 2 years ago or 2007. One of them. I don't know when that came out.
Yeah, it just came out. Yeah, I know.
I thought it was gonna be live action, but it ended up being animated.
Also, in that one, he was the background character that he wasn't even the star in his own movie.
That's a fact. I'll give you that one. Now that's a fact. But it still was a good ass movie.
So I give you animation and dude, watch my nigga. I feel the same way about Black Lightning because he's OP as fuck, but they don't really show.
They don't. I think that's a bigger issue too, right there. Straw Hat. One thing is they tend to weirdly compensate when it comes to writing black characters. I know we have McDuffie and then there's
Cyborg.
Yeah. They try to make him so like proud and prolific and like stern as a black voice of reason. It's like they could make him multidimensional, make him interesting, make him actually have different shades to them too. Not make him always having to be the one that's just standing up there stern and just doing nothing but being proud. Like, make us characters, make us interesting. And they feel like they made Jon Stewart in the Justice League Unlimited and Justice League series and limited series. They made him too serious and didn't make him fun. And when I saw that one episode in Child's Play where he was actually fun, I was so happy to see that.
His hardest fight in Justice League was no powers at all. Jon Stewart's hardest fight in that whole animated series from season 1 to the end, his hardest fight was with no powers, and that was Hawkman. That nigga fought no powers.
So what I'll say, because we've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
You're watching, you're not looking at everything he's been in. Because if you're watching any interaction that he's had with Wally West throughout that entire show, or any interaction he's had with Hawk Girl throughout that entire show, those, or even Vixen, or Supergirl, anytime he's around those characters, he gets to characters like that, he gets to show what he actually can do, what he actually is. Because let's not act like he got a predominant amount of the spotlight throughout that entire series. Most of that spotlight was Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and everybody else got what they got. And they pushed him to the forefront when he was part of a romance or when he was being a mentor to somebody else. And in those things,
he was on trial. Don't forget that he was on trial.
Oh yeah, when he was on trial, that one was a little bit different. I don't expect him to be that creative in that because he's literally going through.
Y'all see how fucked up they just did? Y'all just listed 3 fucked up nigga situations and they go on Stewart. That's fucked up.
But that's
Pretty
the
much.
Point. That's the point, though.
That back to my point being in those stints where he had multiple episode runs or arcs with these other characters, he got to showcase his humor. He got to showcase everything about him as a character, which was interesting. You said it's humor. What's one joke that Jon Stewart said? One joke. A joke? You mean a joke?
Any one joke. You love him to pieces. Name one joke that man has said. Any joke
from that particular series.
From those 5 seasons of
I'm gonna butcher this shit. I have them in my head, but I'm gonna butcher them because I don't know how to. I'll tell you what. I'll find the clip in edits in post. I'll find the clips and I'll actually put the clip in the show.
Fair,
but I'm gonna butcher what it says. Go ahead, my bad.
That's fair, but I do have one. Again, it's from Child's Play, where there's a part where Jon Stewart's like, "Yo, I'm gonna make a giant robot. No, I'm gonna make a tower. No, I'm gonna make a big huge cyborg." And then Batman says, Batman says, "Let's make something already." The idea then of him getting so excited, he's trying to make one thing big. He's trying to up himself over and over and over again. It's a joke. It's a fun beat that they give Jon Stewart. Those fun beats they don't give him other times. He's always a straight man. When he's with the Flash, he's a straight man. When he's with Shire, he's the voice of reason, trying to be calm. He's always the straight man.
He's not always a straight man with them. I think I'd argue he's a straight man with everybody but them.
Put me in the game, coach.
Go ahead. Tag in.
You want to win? Put Booby in. But so first and foremost, Jon has never been fucking born. Let's just start right fucking there. Even in the first episode of Justice League, where they introduced him, everybody was losing. We got Hawk Girl, we got Wonder Woman, we got Superman and Batman. Superman was knocked out twice before Green Lantern showed up, and when Green Lantern showed up, he turned the tide of the fight when they was going against the aliens. So that alone already separated him away from the group. Then what
did he do to beat them?
He was using his Green Lantern powers. Like they was about to have a beam get shot down on them, or some type of crash, or some type of explosion, and Green Lantern was able to shield them off and fight them all at the same time.
So the shield was a bubble that he made. His intro was a bubble shield.
Yeah. Right.
Colin, let me put you in the right direction. His point isn't him being boring as a character, really. His point that we really had a bunch of discourse with originally was his creativity as a lantern.
Right. But in
comparison to like Kyle Rayner. Oh, go ahead. My bad.
I'm gonna get into that bag. Yeah, I know. With Kyle Rayner, he does the big fucking baseball glove and the weird shit like that. That's like, oh wow, I would never thought about doing that shit. Fuck Kyle Rayner. First and foremost, Jon Stewart is a more respectable character. People, I don't know about y'all niggas. You're talking about jokes and shit like that. I get annoyed with people who want to be fucking funny all the fucking time. Like niggas like the Flash, bro. We're literally fighting a whole situation where time is fucked up and you want to make jokes and shit. Fuck you. You sitting here fucking up the world and you want to make jokes and shit. Niggas is dying and you want to make jokes. We talking about niggas like Batman and Jon Stewart who come from a background where niggas is really dying and being killed and life has real consequences and they take that shit serious, nigga. So I look up to a nigga like Jon Stewart versus somebody like Kyle Rayner who I take as a fucking joke and who's trying to get the better punchline. Like that to me is not entertaining. It makes you look less of a hero because why are you making light of a serious situation? Not saying that jokes can't be fun, but at the end of the day, I don't have as much respect for you because these are the niggas who are so busy trying to be funny and be creative. When Kyle Rayner does try to do his creative shit, he fucks up. It's not like it works all the fucking time. Same thing, like even when we watched the movie, he did the little race car shit, almost fucking fucked up the building, hurt himself. So it's like, yeah, you can be creative all day and it's fun to look at, but do I take you serious? Do it look like you know what the fuck you doing? No. When it comes to Jon, he knows what the fuck he doing. I'm a real soldier. I'm about to wear these guns. I'm about to use this sword, this shield, this bubble, this, and he gets creative. He makes jets. So to me, it may not be like fun to see because it's not like a big imagination of something very small, but it's the fact that he brings so much different arsenal to the fight that you don't know what to expect. Like, even if it's not something that is formulated as something hella creative, the fact that Jon can be inside a bubble, bust at you and and shield himself at the same time while protecting OP characters that shouldn't be hurt from this shit, like Superman, everything else. Shit, talking about creativity, Jon Stewart in the same series made a fucking Green Lantern, I mean not Green Lantern, but a kryptonite rock to calm down Superman. So it's like, that's creativity within itself. So
the form I'm a molecular, like he created a molecular object, like he. It's damn near reality warp. You just created this out of thin air. What I will say in that point as well, when it comes to, because you brought up Batman, characters like Batman, Superman, and John, where for majority of the series where they're straight men, they have the most responsibility. Even Wonder Woman to an extent. The only one out of that Justice League group that was really cracking jokes and doing all that shit was Wally. That's because he has the least amount of responsibility. Literally, those guys are the guys that are the strategists. They are the leaders. Wally asks, "Hey, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do?" And I have that ability to just do my part and go have fun. Versus Batman, who has the entire city of Gotham, his own team, and other things relying on. And the crazy thing about it, each one of their own arcs, when you got to see them around other characters where the whole world wasn't dependent on them, you got to see them shine. We got a whole episode of Batman singing blues and running around chasing a pig in the whole episode. We got John flirting with Shira and going to a bar in space and having bar fights and building snowmen. We got that whole episodes of I didn't pay attention to Superman as much in that show, I'm not gonna lie to you. But we got those moments when they didn't have the entire world dependent on them, where they could breathe for a second. Granted, I will say, I understand that me and Khan are extremely biased in this. John being a Marine, he's a vet. I grew up around vets. My grandfather I love was a vet. Majority of my family are vets. So I perceive him as a character very much so differently, and see that whenever, as a man, whenever you have that much responsibility and you're like the person that's dependent on, you don't have the opportunity to be as big of a jokester.
Sure.
Granted, when you have that time to relax, my granddad was hiking his underwear up to his chest, cracking jokes, dancing around, because he didn't have as much pressure on him, and he got to be him and showcase his personality.
Sure. So can I say two? Go ahead. Your guest.
In placement of laughter and jokes, my nigga had Riz. He had Riz.
What did he say?
If you're based off Sidney Poitier, you're not going to have too many jokes. Like Jon Stewart is based off Sidney Poitier, so like, how many jokes I heard from Sidney Poitier?
I mean, I've heard quite a few actually. He's made some.
How many
jokes
Sidney
before.
Poitier movies have you seen?
Yeah, I've seen a few. I've actually seen a few.
But majority, he be trying to be that little serious dude.
But he was smooth. He was always smooth. But he even had jokes in Heat of the Night. But I see what you're saying. I feel y'all. And I do appreciate the character. I've read more of him actually in the comics in recent years, and he's a great character. I see what they're going for. And I actually like this character a lot more in that movie. The animated movie that was kind of rough, I thought. I actually like this character a lot more because they did what they wanted. They actually did what they wanted them to do in the first place. He is a soldier, right? That has survived and seen war. That's trauma. What's something they'd love to do with Batman is they'd love to show how his trauma affects him. They didn't show how Jon Stewart's trauma affected him in Justice League Unlimited or Justice League, the original series, that much at all. I would have loved for them to explore that. I'm not saying I want them to tell jokes and be crazy, but I want them to be what they want them to do is make him more than one-dimensional. That was the problem I had with them. I'm a writer, y'all know this. One thing I try to do above all else, make sure my characters actually have character, have depth, have change, have growth, have something. And Jon Stewart didn't have hardly any of that. He had some, yes, he did have some. And we did see some of those sides with Shira, how he confessed his love to her. He's made a son in the future. But he always seemed that he was more concerned with being stoic and keeping it together. I get that. He was a soldier, but we didn't actually have a chance to see him have a bad day and deal with it. We didn't have a chance to see him actually be like, I'm freaking out here. In the animated movie, we saw some of that. I would have loved to have seen I'm a soldier. This shit takes its toll on me. I would have loved for him to actually create a battle tank. I mean, as opposed to like him making the bubbles over and over again. What if he said, I'm from the battlefield. I've seen tanks protect people. You make a tank to protect them. He didn't do any of that shit at all. And it bothered me.
Granted,
I want to bring up a point before you go, Khan. Remember it also, because we brought up this about Jon Stewart before, and you just said something similar to what Khan had mentioned about wanting to see out of him. As a black character, and they mentioned where he was from a couple times, and he appeared on Static Shock. They never showed this nigga go to any black neighborhood. Y'all in New York? Or
he did.
He went to Detroit in the anime in Justice League. He went to Detroit.
Yeah, that's the point I was about to bring up.
Shooting basketball, went to the barbershop and shit.
Yeah. Then he was on trial. Then he gets arrested and goes on trial.
That's why he was on trial.
Like, bro, go back home and then get arrested in his neighborhood. That's some nigga shit.
That's some black shit, nigga.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened.
Granted, I feel like as far as like the construct thing, I feel like that was more limited through the budget when it comes to that show. I feel like it's a lot harder to animate, like even if they had Kyle, there's a reason they didn't put Kyle or John in that show, because Kyle's making anime mechs and all kinds of wild shit. It probably costs a lot more money to animate that versus a bubble, a laser, not even a gun. Because if you're looking in the comics where he has a lot more liberty to do so, John is literally making platoons of people that have consciousness. He's making, because he's an architect in the comics as well, so he's making constructs that are all kinds of complicated and things of that nature, where he can afford to do that stuff. I think, as far as that goes, I think he's just very limited to budget when it comes to that show.
And that's very
trauma. And in regards to the trauma, as him showcasing that trauma, I just think you're looking for in the wrong places. If you look at any major relationship he's had within that show with people, his trauma is showcased and how he communicates and how he has that lack of wanting to open up. I've met vets. I have family members who went through that trauma, and you respond to it in very much so different ways. There's not one set way to respond to it, but the most common way that I've seen people react to trauma, especially military vets that saw combat, is that they shut down and they reserve into themselves. They showcase all their emotion. Now they're unstable, and you see that a lot.
But they didn't even. The show didn't highlight that. It wasn't like
the show did. The show did.
No. What I mean is the show wasn't like, John, you don't. It wasn't like she was like, you don't talk to me. Why don't you talk to me? He's like, I don't. It didn't. I'm telling you, I've watched the show multiple times.
So do you remember rewatching the episode, that Christmas episode where they went to that bar?
I did.
Yes, and you remember how he was all locked up and he didn't really. It took Shira literally like throwing shit in his face and making jokes where he was like, "Oh, I can open up now. I can express myself more now."
But what I'm saying, I'm adjusting the point you made as far as the show itself didn't actually try to have. I mean, I get it. It's more nuanced. We're actually looking at things differently now in modern 2023 eyes. But it didn't like have it where they were like, "Why?" It never had a character say, "John, I feel like you don't open up to me," or "What's going on here?" And he didn't ever say like, I have my own shit to deal with. I mean, they did it with Batman before. They did it all the time in Batman animated series in the 90s. As far as like all the trauma he has, Robin was there pretty much to have as a sounding board. They didn't do this with John. I would have loved for them to at least try to have someone be like, "Yo, why are you so quiet?" And like, I have shit to deal with. Just something like, as far as like making it clear that he is a character like that. And then you mentioned the idea too about the whole idea of him not being able to have having the budget restraints, so he can't create a whole bunch of like constructs. That's fair. But I'm basing it off of what I saw. And what I saw wasn't there. So if you're saying, well, the budget restraints, fair. But fuck the budget because it didn't happen.
To that point, Ethan, what is it when we talk about writing and you've coached me through it, the number one thing you talk to me about is to show, don't tell.
Yeah.
I gave you perfect examples of when they showed him going through that trauma and showed him communicating to people about how he doesn't open up. You don't need to explicitly say. Yeah, I gave you a whole episode in which in the very beginning of the episode. You gave me an example
of him playing in the snow with Shira.
Yes, to start that episode, he is closed off to Shira. He's not communicating to her. He's not having fun to her. Like, it took that whole episode of her taking, like, the whole episode was based around her opening him up because he was locked off in reserve.
But do we know why he's closed off? Do we know why he's closed off?
It's in a kid show. Do they need to talk about him having military?
Yes, it's a kid show. It's a kid show. They never addressed it at all as far as like. What you do is you have a plan and a payoff. I told you this 1,001 times, Charlie. There's no plan and payoff. There's no idea of her being like, I'm trying to speak to him. Why isn't he talking to me? They didn't do that at all. All it was him just being stoic. And her playing with him out of the blue, and all of a sudden they start laughing. That's it. It's
showcased that he has trauma. It's very much so showcased that he has prior experiences that is the reason he's in. And you see him as a kid. You see what he was like as a kid, and you see how he is an adult. Obviously, there's things that happen in between there to make him like that. Because
obviously, he's naturally openly like that. We can't project.
No, that's logical. As a child, from a child to an adult, you have influences that happen to make you that.
You know that the trauma is there by being understandable. But he said he would prefer them to show it.
Show something. They didn't show that. It's Batman. Something like Show Don't Tell with Batman animated series, all these other ones. They showed Batman experiencing anything. They show Batman dealing with the grief and trauma. We didn't see John doing this stuff.
Green Lantern ain't got a TV show. So we got Batman, we got Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash even had a show. Why my boys John Stewart and Vic can't get no show?
Cyborg, I think you're asking a lot from that particular show. I think Batman animated series, they were able to do a lot more dark stuff and dark tone stuff. Literally have blood within that show.
They got Batman.
I don't think they would have been allowed to talk about a literal military vet seeing people die in war and that being the reason why his trauma is the way it is.
They could have done something. They could have done
possibly.
The point I'm making, and we can let this go because obviously we're going long. The point I'm making is I would have liked to have seen them make him a better character. That's all. In y'all's opinion, he's a great character. Y'all have seen him in the comic books, that's fine. But having read the comic books recently and having seen what the capability they had with him, the fact that he chose to put him in the show, and I feel like he was underserved. And I've seen that so many times with black characters, and it bothers me. I don't want to keep doing that shit. That's all.
I agree, and I'm not knocking you for that. It's just that the point of, I feel like the differentiation is saying that, okay, yeah, I wish he was written more versus calling him boring, because it was so much. To me, if it was honestly for me, if he wasn't in Justice League, it would not have been a hit show. That's just me personally. Yeah, it wouldn't have been good without Green Lantern, especially the Black John Stewart. He made that show interesting for me. When versus everybody else, to me, that was the most boring fucking Superman ever. And same thing with a lot of these other characters. So John actually made it interesting, especially talking about the like we just said, the difference of the dynamics of the relationships that he had. Nobody else was getting as much cat as John Stewart. So even if you was just watching it for the dynamics of them, okay, he getting women in the sky, he getting women on the ground, like John, and then you get to see the dynamics of that relationship, and then the women that he used to mess with, now they having conversations. So even if we're not talking about him particularly, the people that he was involved with made you more invested into the show, because it's like, oh, so this is what's really going on in the Justice League Tower. You know what I mean? Like now we're seeing the relationship portion, not just the superhero and the personal trauma, but now we're seeing it on some like not Grey's Anatomy, but a soap opera type shit. You know what I mean? Right. So.
No, the last thing I'll say about it in regards to, you brought up an excellent point in regards to the other people that have relationships with him discussing him. I vividly remember a very heartfelt conversation with Vixen and Hawkgirl discussing about his inability to open up and him being a creature of habit, and about him, like they said it verbatim.
Oh yeah, I remember that too.
He himself is just not going to say verbatim, "Oh, I'm quiet because I saw friends."
No, I remember that conversation.
Everyone around him is talking about it. All the relations, like it's shown everywhere else except he's just not verbatim.
But I would have loved to have had any kind of. Here's one. I mean, y'all know. I know you all know this. Even Straw Hat knows this too. I know he's not hardcore about Just Unlimited necessarily, but there's a part where you mentioned before where Batman had to sing the blues essentially because women would turn into a pig. At the beginning of the episode, they're doing a stakeout looking for Cersei, right? And Wonder Woman pretty much asked Batman out on a date, like, why are we dating essentially? And Batman's like, list off a reason as far as like, one, I have issues, right, and all kinds of stuff, right? And then she crushes a rock, pretty much like, I'm not fucking around anymore. Why are we dating? Yeah. And he's like, well, maybe I can pick you up. Something kind of, it's a fun exchange essentially, right?
He ignores after that. I remember that verbatim after she crushes the head, the scene continues. He doesn't say anything else.
Yes.
Nothing else to say.
It's I can't remember all the exact details, but it's pretty much, it is a scene to at least address the idea that she wants to date him and he's stonewalling her because he has issues. That's the idea. Something similar to that.
Did you get that? I'll give you like three other things.
Let me finish real quick. You have a great beard. Let me finish right quick.
My bad.
All I'm saying is it would have been cool to see something like that with Shayera saying, why don't you open up to me? Why is there always this much distance? And him being like, my past. I have a lot to deal with, and I don't want to let that out. Even as something to address it. They call in the writing world, they call that hanging a lantern on it, right? As far as like, I'm curious. I know this guy's a soldier. I know he's a background. Why don't we hear more about it? I remember watching this when I was younger, wondering why don't we hear much more about it, and they didn't address it. It would have been awesome. They had him pretty much just say in one little small scene, I have a lot of dark stuff in my past. I don't want to share that with you. That's another part of my life I don't want to deal with. And like, okay, cool. And I get it. I am projecting too. I want him to be a bit more of a different character. And I've seen a lot of that in the comic books later on. I get that. But growing up for those 5 years, I watched the series, and which I did enjoy. I would have loved to have loved Jon Stewart and one of the first Black animated superheroes on that show more. And I feel robbed. That's all.
Fair enough. Jew, you finally got something for us to close it out?
Yeah, I got a few things popping me. I'm gonna just say, I feel remakes are detrimental to classics' legacies.
I don't know. That's a hot take. I don't know.
I honestly, I kind of disagree to an extent.
Okay.
I agree with you to the extent of them, like the quality dip, but I think that people don't look at the original any lesser seeing the remake. Like, I think in most people's minds, especially somebody as tenured as my friend here, that whenever a sequel or a remake comes out to something, whenever a remake comes out to something, in his mind, he immediately doesn't attach that to the original thing. Like, he'll do it because it may be connected to like the writing aspect of it, but these are two very much so different things, especially if it's something like Indiana Jones film, for example, that was made decades apart. Even if you're watching and they're connected, in his own mind, like, this isn't my Indiana Jones. This isn't Indiana Jones. This is something new. This is something different. I think those remakes are made. They're not made for the same people that watch that original thing. They're made for the new fan. They're trying to get that new fan to come attached to the franchise. The remakes, they're made to kind of please the original fans to an extent, but they're not made for them. If we're being quite honest.
I hate y'all for that. I feel they should do a new story, like not a remake, but like something different. Like I like remakes where it's a continuance of the last story. Okay, it's gonna be completely different, but somehow it's somewhat tied to the past. But we gonna change it up to where it ain't like, okay, this is a remake of the one you watch, but we gonna completely change the storyline, gender, sex, or this character, that character, like the new Scooby-Doo's and shit. Fucking Velma was Hindu or some shit, and Shaggy was black, and there's no Scooby. Like, it was funny, but it's like, that's not Scooby-Doo. Niggas gonna be like, okay, Scooby-Doo.
Right.
Nah, that's just weak. But they get to change and shit. Like, I can understand, okay, let's make a show based off this old show, but it's gonna be somehow we'll make it, okay, it's part 2, basically, of it. But when you do a remake and it's supposed to be the same shit as before, but you change everything, that's not a remake, motherfucker. That's the total reboot. It's just a reboot. Yeah. It's a reboot. I don't like it.
Yeah. That's fair. So let me ask you this real quick, Jew. Have you seen was My Adventures? Is it My Adventures of Superman that show? That's the name of it, Charlie?
Yeah, My Adventures with Superman.
My Adventures of Superman. Have you seen that show yet?
No.
Okay.
I don't like Superman.
Yeah, I both gotta watch that.
Ain't that the anime version?
Yeah,
basically anime.
Like Superman.
Hey, bro, I'm telling you, it's hard. It's hard. I don't even like Superman. I'm known for being a hater of that nigga.
After Injustice, I completely cut him off because I felt he was a whole bitch ass nigga. Because, bro, so we all veteran. You'd have been in the military. You got comrades. You got people that have fell on the line that you never got to fucking see again. But you know, y'all done lost people. Whatever the case may be, we all done seen multiple heroes died by this man's side that's supposed to be your friends, nigga, but these motherfuckers have put their life on the line to save you and the rest of the crew and all this other shit, and y'all ain't never went berserk. Soon as you give mind fucked into killing your own bitch, you decide to fuck over the world, kill your comrades, kill Green Lanterns and shit, you fucking side with Sinestro and do all this weirdo shit because you're traumatized because you killed your own woman? No, I can't rock with you, bro. I can't rock with you. You know, it took me a long time to get used to you wearing your drawers on the outside of your pants. Want to sit here and go and do something like that? Nah, I can't rock with him. Bruh, Batman literally lost kids behind Joker. He ain't never said, okay, now I'm just about to go kill all my partners. I'm mad today. I'm killing my partners.
True.
Superman killed his friends, bro. People, and it's supposed to be America's hero. This is the Captain America dude. Like, bro, you sat there and went and killed your partners because they disagreed with your actions because you killed your bitch.
Yeah.
You allowed yourself to get mind fucked and captured and kill your bitch. That was on you.
God damn.
You're Superman. It's in your name. You're supposed to do some super shit. Like, unfortunately, nigga, you feel
but what's funny about that though, Jew, is you're bringing up essentially it is a reboot there. That is a different version of Superman because that's not obviously every iteration.
We're used to that by now. Like that's like I just said in the beginning of it earlier. There have been prostituting and pimping out Batman and Superman for years. We done got so many versions of that.
There's countless versions.
That's kind of probably where it started for me is getting irritated with remakes. Like, who is the person that I'm watching at this point?
Yeah, well, because that was what we're saying. Because obviously Charlie doesn't really rock with Superman at all. But I know you've seen that new series, My Adventures of Superman, and bizarrely enough, it actually is a fun show. It works. It is. I would say it's pretty much it's kind of a remake or a retelling of it, but it works. It's the idea of you can have, because sometimes the original versions, like you mentioned with Superman or whatnot, don't work for people, and you kind of have to make a remake or do something different to bring people get people on board. You mentioned Captain America. I know Dev has problems with Captain America. I think that the way they portrayed him in the MCU, for the most part, they made him as approachable, as much as an approachable character as they could to make him work on film. For the most part, you have to.
Captain American comics is a hard ass. I ain't gonna lie.
He's different. I mean, especially in Ultimates. But the idea is like you have to not fully reimagine, but you have to tweak and kind of get the characters especially if you're adapting from one medium to another, like comics to TV or a film or whatnot. So sometimes you have to do certain things like that. Or if you're telling a story, telling a tale, you have to reboot it or remake it in a way that makes it, good, makes it that people want to see it.
To that point too. Oh, go ahead, Craig.
Oh, go ahead, my brother. Go ahead.
No, I was saying to that point, as far as like the remakes, Superman, especially like he said, I don't really fuck with that nigga at all. I watched Superman the animated series back in the day. I thought it was cool. I thought it was rather boring because, again, a lot of the stuff that Ethan felt about John, I felt about him in that series, as far as him being unimaginative and not really doing too much. Like it was very one note. The stories kind of ended the same. With this series, like this new Adventures Superman series, he's anything but. If I would have seen this first as a child, I would have loved Superman a lot more as a character.
That's the point.
They get to show different aspects of him. And I think even something like going into anime, right? Something like Dragon Ball Z Kai, right? Or even like they're about to redo Naruto now with like a modern animation.
Oh, they are?
You said that trailer about them like they like reanimated the fight of Naruto and Sasuke in like the valley of the, I can't remember the exact name of it, but in that valley of Madara in Hashirama Fada. And they redid it in a modern animation. It looks fire. And they're redoing
it didn't look bad
this
before, but okay.
It didn't look bad, but this one looks really fucking good. Nah, I'd argue. I think it looks better to me personally.
My bad. I mean it. Slow you down.
But no, you're fine. The point being that I think they're gonna redo the show, but they're gonna cut out a lot of the filler, I believe. So somebody watching it down the line, they get to rewatch Naruto in an updated animation with none of the bad parts that we saw as far as the filler goes. Now that show may be a perfect show to them because now they got to saw all the best parts without the annoying filler. And that remake is something that some fans may agree with, some fans may not like. But for the new people that get to see that thing for the first time, it's going to be the best version of what we wanted to get. And they get to see that for the first time without seeing the bad stuff.
I get that. My thing is, I like the updates of time. Like, okay, if it's an old movie back in this time, then you update the time and making it more modernized. But my thing is the character change, the gender change, the sexual preference changes,
I see.
All of that. Like, come on, my brother. Like, what are you doing? Velma's a lesbian. She's fucking Daphne.
Yeah. It's a lot.
I get that.
I'm sticking with right now. There's a lot more, but like, come on, y'all changing too much. Like, it's too much modernized. Like, make a new show.
That's one thing. Just go ahead.
Characters have kids and continue their legacy or something. Like, I'm cool.
I would have liked that, honestly. I think people would have liked Velma a lot more if they these were like the kids of.
Yes, 100 people wouldn't have been.
And that show would have made sense. The way Velma was reading, you could have easily been like, okay, these are the kind of their kids or whatever.
100%.
Makes sense.
You could have Velma as a legacy character. That's their mom trying to talk to their daughter, and her daughter's being wild. Yeah, it would have worked a lot well.
Her grandma could have been Velma because her grandma was the one with the whole powers and abilities. So grandma could have been Velma. Like, bitch, I was going through some shit back in the day, grandbaby. You got the gift, Jinkies, bitch, Jinkies.
Yeah, Jinkies. That could have been a catchphrase too. Jinkies, bitch, Jinkies. But they did something like that with the Scream. The Scream franchise, Scream 5 and 6, it was the kids. It was, spoiler alert, it's the Descendants.
Yeah, so like Scream, some people didn't like it, didn't like it that much. I liked it because it continued the story. Yeah. It's not like, okay, we're not about to remake and say this is bruh and them all over again, but we're going to kind of tweak it. No, continue the story. So that's what some people want. Remakes is cool, don't get me wrong. Some of them have been decent. But keep it 100. Y'all don't want the story to continue?
I'm gonna be honest, some of these stories need to fucking end, nigga. Some of these stories need to stop because they keep writing it to the point where they spit on the fucking legacy. Now
that's the problem I have.
That too.
Yeah, and it's certain ways they could do it amazing. Creed is a beautiful example. You can do that and do a good job, but then you have just overall niggas know DC just fumbles the bag. They just have a really good power of fumbling bag, nigga. That's just what they do, bro. Anytime they try to do some shit, they just every fucking time, nigga. That's just what they do. Like anytime they, like we said, like they keep redoing fucking Batman, they keep redoing fucking Superman. So it's like, yeah, do we like you said, I want to see the story fucking continue, bitch. Move this character the fuck out the way. Let's get some Terry McGinnis in this motherfucker. Let's, you know what I'm saying? Let's fuck them niggas. Like, yeah, are they legacy characters? Cool, I fuck with them. But let's move forward, niggas. So y'all got so many characters with so much nigga.
Superboy is way more interesting than Superman.
Supergirl.
Yeah.
Supergirl.
Facts, nigga. Supergirl is amazing, nigga.
Way more interesting.
It's a lot of characters that we have, nigga, that could change their whole momentum, but they keep want to reboot shit. So me personally, I agree with you saying, but it just depends on the company. The company could do a really good job at it, and then there's other companies that make you just scratch your fucking head like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I agree.
Like, okay, for example, because I see you trying to shut down the show, I'm just gonna say my last one because I have a bigger one I want to talk about.
Oh no, I know we're shutting down.
We ain't got time, so I'm just gonna say, I feel like my nigga Robert Pattinson was the worst Batman. That's just me personally. I thought that was a very terrible take on Batman.
I heard that about you before. I heard that about you.
I'm the first nigga. Most niggas don't agree with me, but I fucking hate that Batman. It's basically the equivalent to Tobey Maguire when he had the fucking symbiote suit, and then all of a sudden now he's a bad guy. He's look at my hair and my bangs, and like I'm emo. He did not have to be that fucking emo. Batman has never been that nigga. Not in the comics, not in live action. Never. He's always been Bruce Wayne, Batman. There's two different characters, and he didn't show no type of range when it came to acting at fucking all. So
did you read Year One?
It should have just been a Catwoman movie.
Did you read Batman Year One?
Yes, nigga. Yes, nigga.
Nigga was depressing as fuck in that whole comic and in the movie.
But when you saw him as a regular person, he did not do that when he was around other people. He was
around people.
He still put up the disguise that I am still either Bruce Wayne or I'm Batman. And even if he didn't show the difference between those two characters, the point is the nigga at least knew how to fight. And this nigga in this movie didn't know how to fight. He didn't have no motherfucking stealth. You would swear he never trained.
He didn't know how to fight. That nigga fought like 50 niggas on the balance now.
He fought the League of Assassins. This nigga did not show no stealth at all. This nigga literally went to the front door.
You leave your glasses at home when you went to go see the movie.
And he knocked on the door and they just started shooting fucking shots at him. He didn't dodge. He didn't throw no smoke bombs, nothing. He just walked straight like the fucking Terminator, nigga.
It was literally his first 2 years as Batman.
What I'll say,
not at that level yet.
What we could do, we could, because I've been trying to get on Tappin for the longest anyway for the official debate. We can do that on Tappin if y'all want to do that.
But I know. I actually want to I feel like we just have Craig and Drew back on, like just have them do. I mean, Craig knows about this. I don't think Drew knows about this necessarily. We had a show back in the day we had called Loose Cannons, where it was a debate, and we had Craig was on there. He debated Otis about Thorfinn versus
Thorfinn versus
Jet, Jet, right? From
yeah. He's spoken about it. Khan has spoken about it to me. Yeah. I haven't seen it, but
that's the only time I've ever seen that nigga concede defeat. He
lost bad. It was pretty
bad too.
It was he's like halfway to the he's like I lost. But it'd be fun if we could do it again. Bring back Loose Cannons just to have Craig versus like Drew on that. Maybe fun to do.
They know. I told him I'm bringing it back for that. I'm bringing it back for that.
Yeah,
I already told him
that debate. But one thing I want to say real quick, Craig. Have you played any of Street Fighter 6 or heard of Street Fighter 6 by any chance?
Or I'm not a big Street Fighter fan, bro. I'm more of an MK nigga myself.
That's perfectly fine. Actually, MK did the same thing, but Street Fighter did it recently where what they said was, okay, all the stuff that happened in the past few games, that's cool. Let's go ahead and go forward at least a decade plus. And so now the main characters themselves are all kind of the mentor characters. You create your own character, and it progressed forward. The main villain, Bison, he's not even around in the game anymore. It's like they actually have taken things, they've gone forward. Obviously, Tekken is the same thing where they kind of try to move forward a little bit as far as the story of Jin and Heihachi. Mortal Kombat, now, spoiler alert, obviously Liu Kang is actually the god. So it's like the idea of, like y'all are saying, you can make things that much more entertaining if you move the story along, have the characters progress and age and change and everything else like that. So video games get it right sometimes, I wish that.
Ash Ketchum being 13 years old for 25 years.
That is my number.
Ash Ketchum has been 10 for who the fuck roams around the world for 25 years and stays
by themselves? What parents?
Timmy Turner.
I heard wasn't it
Turner? No, Timmy Turner made a sequel 40 years ago.
Yeah, I know, but that's why I said it. Yeah.
Wasn't like the theory that all the events of Pokemon happened within like 3 years or some shit like that?
Right,
like,
which is crazy.
All that shit happened in like 3 years.
So I guess it's impossible.
Right. But yeah, guys. Guys, thank
Like
you so
his
much for coming on.
clothes changed, but he didn't. How you don't get? Hey, you didn't have a birthday. You got some new clothes, but you didn't have a birthday.
Oh,
Yo,
God.
Pikachu learned all these attacks, but when's your birthday?
So here's a fun one for y'all. Y'all know The Simpsons. I mean, I know it's kind of dead now, but in The Simpsons, the show The Simpsons, Maggie Simpson, right? Baby, that's 1 year old. Maggie was around doing her thing when before Apu met his wife. Apu meets his wife. They get married. Then she gets pregnant. Then they have the octuplets. Then the octuplets go on to be like 2, 3 years old. They're walking and talking. Maggie is still the same age at 1. It's like years have passed for other people, yet these guys are somehow trapped in a stasis.
So good. Hey, you might have stumbled on a conspiracy theory, bro. On some real shit.
Before we get ready to close out, guys, tell everybody know where they can find you guys at.
Please.
My name's Straw Hat Joofy, man. You know, you can find me at Straw Hat Joofy at the FFY. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook under that name. You can catch me every Friday on Tapping No Capping, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yeah, man, I'm there. Just click the follow button, like, subscribe, share. And it was a pleasure being on here, man, for the first time. I really enjoyed it.
Happy to have you.
It's your boy, The Comment, man. You can see me on Tapping No Capping with my boy, Jew. Making it do what it do everywhere like air. You feel me? Next episode, we're going to be on Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're going to be talking about live action versus the animation, like who did it better. And so you can chime in on that. We would love to have anybody. And just like Juice said, you know, I think this might be my third time be on here or something like that. But, you know, I am a core fan. So I'm just, you know, I try to find my then and now bucket hat, but I couldn't find it. So, you know what I'm saying? Core fans still fucking with y'all, still rocking with y'all. It is a blessing to be in a fellowship with y'all brothers. Thank you for bringing me into the fold. Ethan, good to see you healthy and shining, my brother. Your melanin is looking right. You know what I'm saying? So,
likewise. Hold on, I'm trying to get that picture up, right? That picture of us that you're talking about right now, Craig. Of you wearing that?
I got it on my computer. I never got rid of it. I think I got it on here somewhere.
Well, I got it on mine too. I'm trying to get it up here. Let me get it. See.
I think I'll be down there in November or something like that. Because me and Drew supposed to be going to an event. Oh yeah.
But he's
not the best. Not the best picture, nigga. Hey, Jew. This nigga put this up without me knowing, bro. So I was just like, fuck it. It's like, fuck it. This is not my favorite picture, but it is what it is.
It looked good to me. Hey, Buddy was our first fan. He was the first one to give us feedback on shows and what he wanted and stuff like that.
Hey, that bucket had fire, though. I'm going to keep it a band. That shit fire.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get some more merch made with Blerd at some point, hopefully. Because we don't even got that merch. That's the crazy shit is. He has merch, and like the creators of the show don't have any merch.
That's the third time I heard you say that.
But I'm trying to bring this up once again, y'all. I'm sorry. This is spontaneous. I can do it right here. Can I?
Hilarious.
If I put it in here.
You trying to put a picture or video up?
No, an image. I got it right here. Give me 1 second, fam. 1 second. I found what I was trying to find. So let me put it up here. I'm old. Y'all know I'm old as shit, so it takes me forever to do anything. 1 second here. There we go, right there. All right. So this is a picture from. It's a not too long ago. See if y'all remember this. There you go.
Yes, sir.
I thought you meant that bucket hat.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
that's not. Shout out to my boy Jew Heffy. You know what I'm saying? With the highly medicated
meditation club, man. I see you over here, man. HMC'd up, man. Join the club, man. Be a member today, man. You know what I mean?
Coach, let me get some of that merch. I'm just broke right now. Let me get some though.
Yeah, the merch is fire. I'm gonna give me a couple of outfits, actually.
I need the joggers for sure. Oh God.
Joggers, yeah.
But yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for coming on. We appreciate it. I know it was kind of a short notice. I asked you about a week in advance, but alas, I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
They're professionals.
They're professionals. These guys make great content. I go over, support them. I think I've been on a couple of episodes popping in because, again, I love what they do. Again, thank you guys for coming in. Thank you for your support. We hope for your continued support. And we'll see you guys next time on another episode of the Then and Now podcast. Peace.
Yeah, what Otis can do his last quote before they end the show.